Pain is not some distant, abstract concept. It is not a theory you read about in a book or a word that fills the pages of poetry. Pain is real, it's living, it breathes in the background of every silent room, every tear, streaked pillow, every clenched fist trying not to shake. We walk through life trying to pretend we are unbothered, unfazed, but the truth is, if you live long enough, someone will hurt you. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and when it comes, it doesn't knock politely. It barges in uninvited and unwelcome. To acknowledge the deep reality of human pain is not to wallow in it. It's not weakness, it's honesty, and that kind of honesty is rare. We live in a culture that teaches us to numb it, distract from it, medicate it, disguise it. Smile more, post the highlight reel, keep moving, stay strong, but all the while, we're bleeding out behind closed doors. And the truth is, it doesn't go away just because we pretend it's not there. Pain doesn't vanish when you ignore it. It buries itself deeper. There's a certain kind of pain that words cannot even touch. It's not loud, it doesn't scream, it doesn't throw a tantrum. It just sits in the soul like a weight, quietly stealing joy, hope, and even breath. And if you've been there, if you've had your heart crushed by someone you trusted, if you've been spoken to like you were nothing, if you've sat in silence wondering what you did wrong, then you understand that human pain is not always about physical suffering. Most of the time, it's invisible. It's in the look someone gave you. It's in the silence after they left. It's in the way you replay that conversation over and over, wishing you could forget it and knowing you can't. Some people carry pain that's been with them since childhood, words from a parent that were never supposed to be said, betrayals that cracked the foundation of their soul. Others have fresh wounds, still raw, still open. And they come to church, to work, to family dinners, looking whole on the outside but shattered within, and we walk past them. Sometimes we are them, and we never speak it, because somewhere along the way we started believing that real strength means pretending we're not hurting. That faith means always smiling. That maturity means moving on without feeling it. But here's the truth. If you never acknowledge the reality of your pain, you will never heal. What you bury alive will rot the roots of your life. What you hide will not stay hidden. It will show itself in how you speak, how you love, how you withdraw, how you trust. Pain, when unacknowledged, becomes a lens through which we see the world. It changes how we interpret love, how we accept correction, how we view ourselves and others. It's not just something that happened to you, it becomes something that lives in you. There are people who have been hurt so deeply, they don't even know they're hurting anymore. They've built their identity around it. They don't say, I was abandoned. They say, I don't need anyone. They don't say, I was betrayed. They say, I trust no one. That is not healing. That is pain in disguise, and God never called us to pretend. He never asked us to fake strength or bottle it up and call that faith. If you look at Scripture, the people God used the most were not the ones who ignored their pain, but the ones who poured it out before Him. David cried out, my tears have been my food day and night. Jeremiah was called the weeping prophet. Even Christ himself, fully God, wept, not because he was weak, but because he was real. He felt, and yet he did not sin. That alone tells us something sacred. Feeling pain does not mean failure. Feeling deeply does not make you less holy. In fact, refusing to feel, pretending not to be affected, that's where the danger lies. Because it numbs you not just to the pain, but to everything else, to joy, to love, to conviction, even to the voice of God. Some wounds don't heal with time. That's a lie we tell ourselves to feel better. Time doesn't heal. Truth does, and the truth starts with this. What happened to you mattered. The words they said hurt. The way they treated you was wrong. The loneliness, the shame, the betrayal, none of it was small. You're not too sensitive. You're human, and God never rebuked someone for being human. He meets people in their humanity, so stop pretending. Stop minimizing your own pain just because someone else had it worse. Stop telling yourself you should be over it by now. You feel what you feel for a reason. The wound is proof that you loved, that you trusted, that you hoped. That's not something to be ashamed of. That's something sacred. Pain is the evidence that your heart was involved, and where your heart is involved, God wants to work. But here's the thing, you cannot bring something to God that you won't admit is there. If you don't acknowledge the pain, you will never lay it down. You will carry it until it hardens you, until it becomes bitterness, cynicism, numbness, until it shapes how you see every relationship, every opportunity, even how you see yourself. Pain is not weakness. Pain is part of the journey, but what you do with it, that's what will define you. That's what matters, and the first step is simply this: admit that it's real, speak it, cry it, write it, whisper it in prayer. Whatever it takes, don't dress it up, don't dilute it, name it, because only what is brought into the light can be healed, and only the honest heart can be transformed. When someone wounds you, the first thing your flesh wants to do is rise. It wants to speak back, strike back, prove a point. It wants justice, or at least the version of justice that feels like revenge in a suit and tie. That's the instinct, that's the reflex, and it happens so fast you don't even notice it. Your jaw tightens, your chest burns, your mind races. You replay what they said, how they looked at you, what they meant by it. You start imagining conversations that never happened, arguments you want to have, comebacks you wish you'd delivered. It feels righteous. It feels fair, but the problem is, in that moment, we're not examining them. We're reacting from us, from our pride, from our pain, from a place that hasn't been sifted through the filter of truth. There is a reason Scripture doesn't say guard your reputation or guard your response first. It says guard your heart, because the heart is the wellspring of life, but it's also the source of everything that comes out of you. Your words, your choices, your reactions. When you are hurt by someone, the heart is what receives the wound first. But it's also the part of you that has the most power in deciding what happens next. The world will tell you that you need to get even, or stand your ground, or defend your name. But what if the real battle is not out there? What if the real battle is in here? What if, before you speak another word, send another message, or even share your story with someone else, what if you paused long enough to examine your own heart? Not because you're at fault for being hurt, but because what comes out of you next will not just reveal your wound. It will reveal your character. Pain has a way of distorting perception. You start to assume motives. You start to read into silences. You start to believe lies about others and even about yourself. You start to think things like, they never really cared, or I always get treated this way, or maybe I deserved it. These thoughts don't come from clarity. They come from a place inside that's still bleeding, and when the heart is bleeding, it cannot see clearly. So you react from the wound instead of responding from wisdom. You lash out or you shut down. You become cold or explosive or silent or defensive, and in trying to protect yourself, you actually expose a deeper issue. You're still letting the wound lead you. We don't like to hear this, but sometimes our reaction is more dangerous than what was done to us. Not because the offense wasn't real, but because unchecked pain turns into sin so quietly, so deceptively, that you think you're standing up for yourself while you're actually hardening your heart. That's why the call to examine your heart is not just about self-awareness, it's about spiritual warfare. It's a fight to stay clean in a moment where everything in you wants to retaliate. Ask yourself, why does this hurt so much? Is it truly the offense, or is it touching something deeper, something old, something unresolved, something insecure? Ask yourself, am I seeking truth, or am I looking for validation that I'm right? Ask yourself, am I about to respond with humility, or am I defending my pride? These questions are not comfortable. They strip us, they slow us down, but they are necessary, because if you do not ask them, you will speak from the rawness of the wound, not from the peace of wisdom. This isn't about blaming yourself for being hurt. This is about taking responsibility for how you handle what was done to you. You cannot control their actions. You can't make someone apologize. You can't rewrite the past. But you can choose what kind of person you become in response, and that decision begins in the hidden places, before the confrontation, before the conversation, before you even open your mouth. There are people who look like they're handling things well on the outside, but inside their heart is rotting. They've never forgiven, they've never let go, they've never looked inward. They've simply locked it all up under layers of politeness or busyness or I'm fine. But God is not fooled. He sees past the behavior, he sees the bitterness tucked behind your smile, he sees the pride dressed up like righteousness, and he's not interested in behavior management, he's interested in heart transformation. When someone wrongs you, it creates a crossroads, not just between you and them, but between you and God. You either lean into his spirit or you lean into your flesh, and the frightening part is, you can lean into your flesh and still feel justified. But just because it feels good to your pride doesn't mean it's right before the Lord. That's why you must stop and examine. You must pray before you speak. You must sit in the presence of God and say, "Search me, O God, know my heart, try me and know my thoughts." That is not weakness. That is the greatest strength you can walk in. Anyone can react. It takes courage to look inside. It takes maturity to say, before I answer them, I need God to deal with me. That's not letting them off the hook. That's getting your soul right before you face the battle. Because when your heart is clear, your response will be clean. You won't respond to destroy. You'll respond to reflect Christ, even if that means silence. Even if that means walking away, even if that means confronting, but with tears instead of rage. You can speak the truth and still sin. You can have all the right facts and still be full of the wrong spirit. That's why this matters. That's why you cannot afford to bypass this. Examining your heart is not optional. It is foundational. It determines whether your pain becomes a prison or a platform for growth. It decides whether your reaction adds to the problem or becomes part of the healing. You might be absolutely right about what they did. It might have been cruel or unjust or selfish. But being right about the offense does not mean you're right in how you handle it. God is not after who's right. He's after who's righteous, and that righteousness does not come naturally. It comes only when the heart is laid bare before him, when we stop justifying our reactions and start surrendering them. When we admit, Lord, this hurt has made me proud, angry, defensive, and I don't want to become this version of myself. So pause, take the time, get alone with him, look inward, not to shame yourself, but to sanctify your response. Because how you handle pain says just as much about your soul as how you handle blessing. The wound is not just something to survive, it's something that can reveal the truth about your heart, and the truth is always what God wants to get to, no matter what the cost. Bitterness is a silent killer. It doesn't announce itself with loud proclamations or dramatic scenes. It doesn't arrive with a noticeable bang. Instead, it creeps in slowly, subtly, like a weed in the cracks of your soul, unnoticed until it's taken root and starts to spread. At first, it feels like a small wound that's never fully healed, but the more you feed it, the more it grows until eventually it takes over everything. It begins to distort your thinking, cloud your emotions, and most dangerously, it begins to shape your behavior in ways you never thought possible. The thing with bitterness is, it never stays in one place. It doesn't just remain as a single feeling that you can simply get over. It's a poison that spreads throughout every area of your life. You think it's confined to the moment you are hurt, but before long, it starts affecting how you view the world, how you trust, how you love, even how you see yourself. It makes you more suspicious of people, less open to love, and it makes joy feel out of reach. And worst of all, it twists your ability to see others clearly. What began as an offense committed against you turns into an all-encompassing lens through which you view everyone around you. Every person you meet, every relationship you have, begins to be seen through the filter of that bitterness. Bitterness is dangerous because it keeps you locked in the past. It traps you in the moment of pain, forcing you to relive the hurt over and over. It plays the same scene on repeat until every time you think of that person, every time you think of that moment, the wound is fresh again. And with that constant replaying comes the feeling that you can never move forward. You can never experience peace because your mind is stuck in the hurt that happened days, months, or even years ago. You see, that's what bitterness does. It doesn't just keep you in the past, it keeps you from the future. It stops your emotional growth. It locks you in a place where healing and freedom can't even begin because you refuse to let go of what was done to you. What makes bitterness so insidious is that it can be justified. You can tell yourself that you have every right to feel angry, to feel resentful, to hold on to what was done to you. You might even say, "I'm not bitter, I'm just being realistic." But here's the truth. Bitterness is a choice, even when it feels like it's not. It's a choice to keep holding on to the offense, to keep allowing the wrongs to shape your heart, and you'll tell yourself that it's justified. After all, they hurt you, they didn't apologize, they walked away, or they betrayed your trust. And maybe, in the eyes of the world, it's easy to say, you have a right to be angry, you have a right to carry that grudge, but the longer you carry it, the more it becomes a part of you, and the longer you carry it, the more it destroys you. Bitterness is the one thing that doesn't only affect the person you're angry at, it destroys you from the inside, it eats away at your joy, it dulls your ability to experience grace, it robs you of peace. The thing with bitterness is, you think it's punishing the other person. You think by holding on to it, you're teaching them a lesson, but what you don't realize is that all the while, it's poisoning your own soul. It's turning you into someone you were never meant to be, someone who is hard, suspicious, and constantly looking for an opportunity to prove how right they are, someone who can't trust, can't love, can't forgive. The more you feed bitterness, the more it consumes you, and it doesn't just stay contained to the one situation you're angry about. It starts to color every situation in your life. Bitterness makes you a prisoner, but the walls aren't visible. The chains are invisible. You walk around looking free on the outside, but inside, you're bound by resentment. And because that bitterness becomes so ingrained in your identity, you begin to wonder why you can't find joy. You wonder why you struggle to love others. You wonder why you can't experience the freedom that others seem to have. And the sad truth is, it's because you've allowed that bitterness to take up residence in your heart, and it's preventing anything else from growing. Bitterness doesn't just affect how you feel, it affects how you see and how you act. It makes it hard to give others the benefit of the doubt. You'll find yourself assuming the worst in people, believing that everyone is out to hurt you, that everyone will eventually betray you or let you down. The worst part is, you may not even realize how much your bitterness is affecting your perspective. It's like trying to look through a foggy window. Everything becomes distorted. Relationships suffer. You withdraw from others because you're afraid of getting hurt again. You build walls around your heart to protect yourself, but in the process, you block out the very love and connection that could heal you. And what happens when bitterness goes unchecked is that it ultimately affects your relationship with God. It begins to erode your ability to forgive, to trust His justice, and to walk in the peace He offers. Because bitterness convinces you that your way is better. It convinces you that you deserve something more, whether that's an apology, revenge, or a sense of justice that makes you feel better. But God has a different way, a way that asks us to forgive even when it feels impossible, to let go even when the wound is deep. He asks us to trust Him with the things we can't control, to release the burden of bitterness and let Him carry it. What's worse than all of this is that bitterness is contagious. It's not something that stays isolated within you. Bitterness leaks out and it affects the people around you. You may not even realize that your bitterness is seeping into your relationships, but it is. You talk about that person who hurt you to anyone who will listen. You vent to your friends, your family, your coworkers. You invite others to join you in your anger. And before long, it's no longer just you who's bitter. It's spreading to others, and now the very relationships that could help you heal are contaminated by the same poison you've been drinking. Bitterness has the power to rob you of peace, joy, and connection. It distorts your perception of reality and keeps you from being able to love freely. It builds walls where there should be bridges. It destroys your heart from the inside out. And while it may seem like you're holding on to it for the sake of justice, the only person who ends up being punished is you. When you've been hurt, it's easy to let your emotions dictate your response. The natural reaction is to mirror the hurt you've received, to give back in kind, to retaliate in a way that matches the offense. It feels just, doesn't it? It feels right, almost righteous. After all, why should you allow someone to get away with treating you poorly? Why should you suffer in silence while they walk away without consequence? The instinct is to strike back, to make sure they feel what you've felt, to ensure that the scales are balanced. But if you look at life this way, you will miss something far more important. You will miss the higher standard to which you have been called. You see, the world tells us that justice is measured by how much we can hurt someone back, how much we can make them feel the weight of their wrongs. But the truth is, the standard we are called to is not the one the world holds up. The way we are meant to respond is not through retaliation or revenge, but through something far harder and far more profound: love. A love that goes beyond what is fair, a love that does not simply act in the moment, but rises above the immediate emotions and sees the bigger picture. It is a higher standard, one that doesn't settle for the same cycle of pain and retribution, but instead breaks the cycle entirely. When Jesus speaks to us about loving our enemies, he's not offering a suggestion. He's pointing to a standard that is higher than anything we could manufacture in our own strength. Think about it. Jesus was God in the flesh. He had every right, every authority to demand justice, to command retribution on those who wronged him. He could have struck down those who rejected him, who spat on him, who crucified him, but he didn't. Instead, he chose to love, he chose to forgive, he chose to extend grace, even when it cost him everything. And that is the standard we are called to, a standard that doesn't seek to repay evil with evil, but to overcome evil with good. It's easy to say you'll forgive when the offense is small, when the betrayal doesn't really hurt. But what happens when the wound runs deep? What happens when someone you trusted, someone you loved, someone you thought was on your side, turns on you and hurts you in ways you never expected? In those moments, the temptation is to lower the standard, to lower your expectations, to justify holding on to bitterness, to let anger guide you. But that's exactly when you need to raise your standards, not lower them. You need to remember that the way of Christ is not the way of the world. His way is not about getting even. It's about living a life that reflects something higher, something more profound. His way is about choosing to forgive, to release, to love even when it doesn't make sense, even when it doesn't feel fair, even when it costs you everything. We live in a world that constantly pulls us toward the lower road. It tells us to protect ourselves at all costs, to stand our ground, to fight back. It tells us that our feelings matter above all else, that our right to be heard and our right to be treated fairly comes before anything else. And while those things may be true, they are not the ultimate truth. The higher standard calls us to look beyond our own woundedness, beyond our own immediate emotions, to see a deeper truth, that we were created to be more than just reactors. We were created to reflect the image of God, to embody the love and grace that He extends to us, even when we don't deserve it. You can feel the tension between the two standards. The world's way says, get back at them, defend yourself, protect your pride. But the higher standard says, love them, forgive them, release them, and in doing so, release yourself. The world tells you that your worth is in how you defend yourself, in how much you prove to others that you're right, that you're justified in your anger. But the higher standard tells you that your worth is not in your ability to fight, but in your ability to forgive and to love with a purity that transcends human reasoning. This doesn't mean that you deny the hurt or that you pretend it didn't happen. It doesn't mean that you ignore justice or allow abuse to continue. It doesn't mean that you let people walk all over you or that you stay in harmful situations. But it does mean that you refuse to let your emotions control your response. It means that you hold on to something higher, something that doesn't let the bitterness of the offense turn into something darker, something that doesn't let the wrong shape your heart for the long term. It means you choose to take the harder road, the road that leads to healing and peace, even when it feels impossible. Forgiveness is not a feeling, it's a choice. And sometimes that choice comes with a cost. It costs your pride, it costs your sense of control, it costs your need to be right, but in choosing to forgive, in choosing to rise above the temptation to fight fire with fire, you are choosing a higher path. And in that choice, you are not just letting go of the offense, you are freeing yourself from the power it holds over you. We often think of forgiveness as a gift we give to others, and in many ways, that's true. But the truth is, forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself. It's a gift that allows you to stop carrying the weight of the offense, to stop letting it shape your thoughts and your heart. Bitterness and anger don't hurt the person who wronged you, they hurt you. The higher standard calls you to let go of that weight, not because the person who hurt you deserves it, but because you deserve to be free, you deserve to walk in peace, you deserve to live without the chains of resentment and bitterness. We're not called to just respond to offenses in a way that feels fair. We are called to respond in a way that reflects something higher, something greater. We are called to forgive as we have been forgiven, to love as we have been loved. And the higher standard isn't about being perfect. It's about choosing to step away from the natural, fleshly desire to retaliate and instead embracing the supernatural, God-given strength to forgive, to heal, and to love in ways that are beyond us. This is not a call to weakness, it's a call to strength, strength to break the cycle of hurt, strength to live in freedom, strength to rise above the pain and to choose the higher road. And when you choose the higher standard, you don't just reflect Christ in the world around you, you also find a peace and a healing that nothing else can offer. It is a standard that will cost you, but in the end, it will set you free. When we face the pain of being wronged, it's easy to get stuck in the cycle of hurt and frustration. We often want to find a quick fix, a way to feel better as soon as possible, to move on from the feelings of betrayal or injustice. The natural instinct is to want to resolve things immediately, to have the pain go away, to fix the situation. But there's something deeper at play in these moments. When someone hurts you, the temptation is to seek revenge, to defend yourself, or to demand an apology, thinking that those actions will bring relief. However, while these might offer momentary satisfaction, they won't lead to long-term healing. The truth-based solutions that we need often require a time of waiting and a period of anticipation that might not feel comfortable. But if we are willing to build anticipation for the right solution, for the true resolution, we will find that the process of waiting can actually deepen our understanding of ourselves, our pain, and the truth of God's ways. You see, the truth-based solutions are not those that come from the world's playbook. The world offers us plenty of answers: revenge, self-defense, pride, holding on to our right to be treated well, but those are not the answers that ultimately bring peace. Instead, the truth-based solutions come from God. They are found in His Word and in His ways, and they require us to let go of our own desire for instant justice and embrace the timing and methods He sets out for us. But building anticipation for these solutions requires something that many of us struggle with: the willingness to wait. Waiting is one of the hardest things for us to do. When we're in pain, the urgency to fix things, to move forward, to make the hurt stop is overwhelming. We want to control the situation. We want to make things right now. But waiting doesn't mean doing nothing. It doesn't mean passively allowing the offense to continue or ignoring the injustice. Waiting for truth-based solutions means actively positioning ourselves in a way that allows God to do His work in us. It means taking time to examine our hearts, to surrender our desires for retaliation, and to trust that God's way of dealing with pain and hurt will always lead us to a better place than our own quick, emotional reactions. Building anticipation for truth-based solutions means choosing to lean into God's timing and His wisdom rather than relying on our own quick fixes. We live in a world that thrives on instant gratification. We want answers now. We want solutions that make us feel better immediately, but the truth-based solutions are often slow to come because they require us to go through a process, God's process. And that process often involves not just healing from the pain of the offense, but also changing us in ways we didn't anticipate. God uses these painful moments to refine us, to stretch our faith, and to teach us how to respond with love and grace rather than with bitterness and anger. When we take the time to allow ourselves to anticipate the truth-based solutions, we're learning to trust God with the outcome. We're allowing Him to shape our hearts and to teach us the deeper lessons He wants us to learn. And in this waiting, we start to see things from a different perspective. We start to realize that the true solution isn't about getting back at the person who hurt us or demanding an apology or even gaining some sense of justice on our own terms. The true solution lies in God's ability to heal our wounds, to restore what was broken, and to bring us to a place of peace that transcends the hurt. Anticipation doesn't mean sitting idly by and ignoring the pain. It means acknowledging the hurt, feeling it deeply, but not letting it define us. It means looking to God for the healing we need and trusting that He will bring us to a place where the pain no longer has the same power over us. As we wait on God to show us His solution, we begin to see that His answer isn't about erasing the hurt or pretending it didn't happen. It's about transforming our hearts so that we can move forward with a sense of peace and understanding. One of the most difficult aspects of building anticipation for truth-based solutions is the challenge of not taking matters into our own hands. It's tempting to react, to lash out, to defend ourselves, to prove that we are right. It's tempting to seek justice according to our own understanding, to demand that things be set right according to our own desires. But this kind of response only brings more chaos, more confusion, and often more hurt. It's a vicious cycle that keeps us stuck in the pain and the frustration of the moment. The truth-based solution, however, calls us to trust in God's timing and His way of handling the situation. Anticipation means waiting with hope and expectation, not just in what God will do for us, but in what He is doing in us. It's easy to get so focused on the need for a resolution that we forget that God often uses these painful experiences to shape us, to refine our character, to teach us the deeper lessons of humility, forgiveness, and grace. The solution may not come as quickly as we want, but the process of waiting for it can produce something in us that is far more valuable than a quick fix could ever offer. When we choose to wait on God for truth-based solutions, we're not just waiting for the situation to change, we're allowing God to change us, and in the end, this is the real solution. It's not just about solving the problem with the person who hurt us. It's about allowing God to heal the wound in our hearts and teach us how to respond with love instead of anger, with grace instead of bitterness, with forgiveness instead of resentment. Building anticipation for the right solutions is a choice we make to trust God, to surrender our desire for immediate relief, and to embrace the process He has for us. It's about learning to trust in His ability to heal and restore, even when we don't understand how or when the healing will come. And while this process may feel long and difficult, it's in that waiting that we grow, that we learn, that we become more like Christ. The truth-based solutions will come, but they come in God's time, and they bring with them a peace that nothing else can offer. In the end, this peace is worth the wait.